Now, to talk about the legacy of the late former President Fidel V. Ramos, we have political analyst Professor Edmund Tayao over the phone. Professor Tayao, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us this evening, sir. First of all, what was your initial reaction to FVR passing?
Well, it's really sad. You know, the president has really introduced a lot to so much of what we know now as far as the Philippine government is concerned. In fact, so many of the reform measures that we still enjoy, in fact, were all passed during his time. Most notable, of course, was, well, the centralization law was passed in 1991, no, but it became implementable only when he became president in 1992. And what we know now as the PPP, or the public-private partnership, in fact, started during his time as a build, operate, and transfer law. The party list law, despite some limitations and misgivings that we have been started or legislated during his time, and so much more. No, so it's really sad that we'll see him pass. No, and he could have contributed to some other measures that we want to pursue, but it's his time.
Mm-hmm. Sir Edmund, with those that you've mentioned, how would you rate or how would you describe FVR as a head of state? Well,
he was really a standard setter, I should say. He's known and remembered, no, by many of those who worked with him as Mr. With this complete staff work. He's not the kind of president who's just going to leave so much with his staff. Is really hands-on, and that anything that's going to pass through Congress will definitely be reviewed by him. And he really contributed so much to the kind of policies that were enacted during his tenure. So it's really a presidency to remember. Take note also that he's the president after Cory Aquino, no? So during the Cory Aquino's time, of course, it was a transition after EDSA. But so much of the with these measures that more or less concretized, no, or cemented stability in Philippine government were all realized during his presidency.
Mm-hmm. Sir, what kind of legacy is FVR leaving?
Ang dami. I think that's why I mentioned at least the three notable that I've mentioned. In fact, siguro, ito na lang. It was during his time really that the need for system reform, no, has started. No, the debate as to whether we remain presidential or change to parliamentary and even unitary to federal. That's why I mentioned decentralization as a key measure. Actually started during his time. So there was so much debate, not only in government, not only between policymakers, but in the public itself. No, that so many reform measures, in fact, no, had to be debated by experts, by academics, and so on. So I'm inclined to think that he's the technocrat president, no, that we can remember in recent memory.
Sir, were you able to work personally with FVR, or at least maybe you've heard stories about him? Because we'd like to know, the person behind or beyond his political persona. How's he like?
Well, unfortunately, I did not work directly with him. I worked with this Speaker of the House of Representatives then, Speaker Jose de Veneza. My mother is from Pangasinan, so somehow there's some relation. That's what I was told before. So there were occasions that we met personally. And, when you meet the guy, he's really full of energy. And, he jokes around really, no? So much like just an ordinary person that you don't expect from a president, especially from a sitting president. So he's really a very jolly person, and it's easy that you find yourself talking about substantive issues during the day during his time. So it was really something to remember.
Definitely. And maraming salamat for sharing with us all those information and your insights. That was political analyst Professor Edmund Tayao.
Salamat, salamat.
Now, as the nation mourns his death, let's take a look back at the life of the late former President Fidel V. Ramos. The politician was born in Lingayen, Pangasinan on March 18, 1928. Growing up, he attended the U.S. Military Academy and the University of Illinois in the United States. In 1972, late former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. appointed Ramos as Chief of the Philippine Constabulary after entering the Philippine Army. Almost a decade after, he became Deputy Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces. Now, after the presidential elections in 1986, in which Marcos claimed the victory despite allegations of electoral fraud, Ramos switched votes and supported late former President Corazon Aquino. Now, during Aquino's term, he served as Military Chief of Staff and Secretary of National Defense. And not long after, Ramos was elected as new president of the country. Now, as head of state, he was known for his liberalization of economy, among others. His administration also succeeded in reaching peace agreements with two long-active guerrilla insurgencies, the New People's Army and the Moro National Liberation Front.